Having just driven out of camp, we've heard that one of the Avoca males and a few sub-adults are busy feeding on a young giraffe not too far from camp. So we're going to try and get in there, see what's going on, see if it'll be very difficult to determine whether they're Ntsevu Sub-adults or some of the Ntsevu Sub-adults. But the fact is they're pretty close by here, and it's exciting that they managed to catch and feed on something. Although it is a young giraffe, it's quite sad, but still exciting nonetheless.
It's always challenging to identify lions out in the field because we don't have reference material to look at. But this male looks as though he is one of the Avoca males that we don't often see down in this part of the reserve. It looks as though he is what's known as the dark-maned Avoca male. Firstly, the Avocas hardly come south of the Sand River, and secondly, this male hardly ever comes onto Londolozi at all. He normally spends a lot of time with the Tsalala pride. And so to see him down here is very, very interesting. And also on top of that, the sheer fact that he's with some of these Ntsevu Sub-adults who we know he's not the father of, and that he's still tolerating these youngsters being around. Obviously he's laying claim to that carcass and not letting them get too close and feed, but still the fact that they're at the same site or still in the same area feeding on this carcass at the same time is very, very interesting. He does have a bit of a gash above his eye there that looks as though that's probably from a fight with another lion. I wonder if it was maybe one of these sub-adults that was just holding their own that lashed out and actually caught him there, or if it was maybe with a fight with some of the other lions around here. But this is hell of interesting just to see that he's down here. We'll watch him over the next few days and just see where he goes and what he gets up to. We're intrigued by the fact that he's down here and has left the Tsalala pride and the space up in the north, and also just to see if he does spend some time with his brothers, because that's going to then start to see what relationship that they have amongst the three brothers. While we're sitting here watching them feed, Jess is sitting over there with the lioness. There's about 6 or 7 hyenas that are all going after her. We're in a bit of a toss-up whether we stay here watching these guys feed, and a bit of the competition between that. We'll get across there. We'll just wait for a little bit longer and see if we can hear anything further happen there, and then we'll maybe race across that side and see what's going on. We heard her growl once. All of these lions lifted their heads up. We're looking around. We're not too sure if they know that she's here. So we just heard from Jess that lioness has settled down. The hyenas have moved away. So there's no need for us to race across there. Let's rather stick it out here. There's been a bit of interaction. You can see the larger male's obviously a lot more dominant, and this younger male off to the left is more submissive, and so every time the younger male tries to get anywhere near the carcass or tries to get a bite of the carcass, the Avoca male then sits on top of the carcass and growls and snaps out at him. And there was one instance where you could see the claw of the Avoca male got stuck in the forearm of this younger male on the left. And he just cowered away, turning his head to the side, showing a lot of signs of submission, because just the sheer size difference as well as testosterone levels and the aggression levels are much higher in the Avoca male. It's a great interaction. You can just hear that pretty much chest rumbling growls come from them. dominating the kill, hardly letting the younger one come in and feed. There's a few altercations between them where the older male then pinned the younger one down. Eventually it started getting very warm. The Avoca male's now dragged the carcass into the shade, and he's resting in there. He's still laying claim to the biggest, meatier parts of the carcass. The younger male off to the side here, still in the sun, very warm. It sounds like he might be feeding on a bit of the head. Doesn't look as though too much more is going on. The larger male's a bit too full and hot to be feeding. He's just probably going to rest there and lay claim to this carcass for the rest of the day.
So it turns out that female is the Tsalala female. She's moved a little bit further away and is lying down on the road here. So how exciting is that? Maybe she's starting to spend a bit more time with these sub-adults, and chances of success for her are slightly increased if she spends some time with them. As we arrive, she lay down in the shade for a short while, but you can see she's warm. She's got a full belly as well. This starts getting me wondering if, in fact, she might have killed that giraffe, was feeding on it, maybe had a bit of an altercation with hyenas. That brought in the attention of the sub-adults and the Avoca male. They've stolen it from her, and she's now moved away from there because she isn't necessarily as familiar with those lions as she would like. So she has fed, and I don't know if they'll be able to feed on that carcass at the same time. Now she's moved across and is lying down in some very thick vegetation here, so incredibly limited view that we've got, but she looks pretty uncomfortable, so I'm sure she's going to be seeking out the shade and trying to find somewhere cool to rest for the rest of the day. But we're going to leave her. So great to see that she's still doing well and is healthy and is still on Londolozi. So this morning there was quite a bit of rain and we got out a little bit later. And just with the odd chance of finding the Ntsevu Females youngsters, we've come past where we saw them yesterday morning and found one of them lying up at the top of that dead knobthorn again. So they're obviously loving this spot and spending a lot of time around here. Haven't had a chance to see if her sister is here as well. So we'll just spend a bit of time. It's cool, it's fresh, there's a lot of moisture around, so I'm sure she'll come down at some point. And if her sister is here, they're most likely going to play quite a bit. So we'll see if we get lucky again today, and maybe even the mother will return this time. We believe that she's the only one that's here. Her sister's definitely not around anywhere in the close, sort of nearby vicinity. She's just been resting up the top there, probably waiting for her mother and sister to return. And what I think might have happened is the Ntsevu female must have come back at some point yesterday, called them, but only the one responded, and she's taken that one off, maybe to go and feed on a kill, and this one could have been a bit further away or a bit lazy or didn't go with, and so she's been left behind and is now just waiting here for her mother to then return and call her. So by resting up at the top of the tree here, it gives her a bit of elevation and a vantage point, so she can see if there's any danger approaching her. It's still very cloudy, and so there's no need for her to come down and rest in the shade. She's comfortable and happy up there, as well as if her mother's on her way back in order to collect her and take her off to a kill, or just to check in and see that she's alright, she'll be able to see her up on the top of the tree from quite a distance away, knowing that this is the best place to come in and have a look, or to at least find her. I'm sure she's going to start getting a little bit uncomfortable and restless and might come down and find a little bit more comfortable spot to rest in some of the longer grass here. So that's what we're hoping for, that she's going to get up, yawn, stretch, get an epic high key shot of that, and then she might come walking down or running down the branch here, which we'll hopefully try and get. Well, that's our hopes for the morning. Let's just see if it all plays out. We've been very patient this morning, sat here for a few hours hoping that she'd do something, but nothing else has really materialized. She's lifted her head up a few times looking around. That's about it, or that's the extent of what we've seen. So we're probably going to leave shortly. Such an amazing scene to be able to sit here with her for a few hours this morning. So finally our patience paid off. Just as we were getting ready to pack up and leave, she stood up, stretched, and then has come down the tree, walked past us, and she's just settled down in the grass behind us. So finally we got what we were looking for. Patience paid off there, and what an incredible sighting.